choo-choo, let's get this train a-moving. Whew. Okay, welcome back there. That was the theme there. Oh, mosquito. Shite. Did not get the mosquito. Apologies for that. But no, that there was the battle number 58 for from if I can get to this, from the soundtrack of Celceta, for, good old East Celceta. Now, that game came out, when did that come out? I think 2012 in Japan, at least, and I have not played it since it came out. So, randomly going through some of the music, and I was like, what should I use for some bumper music and stuff, and I just thought I would use something else, and, which was actually the arrangements of music from the Oath and Felghana. There's like an arranged soundtrack that's got, I think, 10 to 12 songs, and I was going to use some of those, but they're not MP3s, they're WMA, so I'd have to convert them to MP3, and I'm actually recording this at like 1:30 in the morning, so yeah, so this is a little bit different, but I needed to get one finally done again to get back on track with it, because I know if I don't get back on track with it, it's just not gonna go. But so like, I'm doing this right before, so this will come out like 8 hours or so whenever I wake up and kind of start getting to it with some editing it together and everything. So maybe later in the day, I should say. But but the Celceta track, what I had to do when I came back after I didn't lose my laptop. My laptop crapped on me, and I had to get a different one for uber cheap. It doesn't have a disk drive, and so I had to get the music off of the my brother's PS3, use a disk drive or like a thumb drive USB, put music on that, and then transfer the music over. So it done it in some file. So I'm hoping I don't have to work on this. Otherwise, it's gonna be a headache. But I do it for you. I hope everybody's doing well. As you've seen, I had a bit of a couple weeks where I just kind of fell off the planet doing this. Part of it was just kind of finding an appropriate time to do it, which this is obviously not an appropriate time to be doing it, but finding an appropriate time to be doing it, but also just kind of getting caught up in a few other things going on in life and stuff. So I apologize for that, and I hope you can forgive me if you hear any sort of humming going on. I actually have a fan going. It's on the lowest setting, but I kind of need it to go to keep circulating air. Don't have AC at the moment, so, and it's supposed to be fairly hot tomorrow during the day. It's not quite hot right now, but this is to keep air circulating so that when it does come hot, hopefully it won't get horrifically hot in here. But yeah, so that's that. I guess I've just kind of been caught up in doing things. Writing. I put out at least a couple videos to kind of keep, hey, I'm here. Got the awesome Kirby hat in, so I hope you guys seen that. It's fantastic. I love the Kirby hat. It is quite awesome. But that's about it. I mean, yeah, just starting to ratchet up a little bit on game stuff. Had to put together a map thing, and that was, I like doing it, but for some reason when it comes to working on the game with it, for some reason I become dumb, and it doesn't want to work for me. I don't know if my brain's just kind of like, yeah, you're not gonna get this one, click, or what, but it is one of the unfortunate things there. So Yes, I have an episode this week, so woohoo! I honestly do not remember what number this is. That's how bad. I want to say it's 12, and that's only because I put 12, and that was, I think last week I had said in the a little vlog video that I did that I had recorded something, and with the intention of doing it, but as I kind of went about it, I like all the sections and segments, because I record them separately, so it gives me a chance to drink or whatnot. So yeah, spoilers on that one. But I recorded them separately, but in each one I kind of mentioned back to the discussion, and the discussion I just did not like. I didn't like how it kind of came out, and I couldn't find my paper, so I actually made 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I have 7 new topics. I don't know if any of the new topics that I have on here were on the old one, but yeah. So we're going to kind of start anew for season 2 of Rambling Weekly here, but yeah. So that is that, and I apologize once again. And it does kind of happen, or especially it seems to be something that goes through with channels. I start doing something and then I get completely caught up into something else, and then it kind of goes to hell. But sorry. I guess that's just kind of how I am. I mean, kind of a funny little tangent here is I had a little bit of a back and forth private message stuff with Happy Console Gamer, and I had told him how I kind of wasn't really in the I had mentioned something how I was kind of really busy with stuff, and I spent the night writing out descriptions for the game I'm working on for the alpha, like descriptions for the items, descriptions for enemies, the attacks and equipment and that sort of thing. He's like, you need to find some fun game to play. and it's weird to me, and this will probably be a topic at some point, but like for me, I find that fun. I find writing out those kind of descriptions fun. I find some of that sort of stuff which may kind of seem tedious fun. And when he said that, it's not like, and I kind of joked back with him because it's pretty much how I am, and that's why I had started the whole games which fanned my passion, which kind of took a little bit of a dive because of the laptop really not wanting to cooperate recording footage. But yeah, I'm kind of like I joked with him that I should start up a new channel, like a different channel, and call it the Gaming Camel, because how I play games generally is I'll play a bunch in a short time, and then I won't play for a few months, so it's like I've stored up enough water to make it across the desert, sort of thing. And that's just kind of how I am. Particularly with games I'll do that. Reading sometimes, like I'm kind of stuck with Conan right now. I haven't really gotten back to it, unfortunately, and like I've actually started reading the Conquest of Gaul by Julius Caesar. I may have mentioned that in a video or something, but I started reading that, so that'll be kind of cool, because I'm very curious to see how that is, because there's been instances for Julius Caesar where he's like I want to say that he's telling servants to write something out, and he's like talking to he's talking to multiple, he's talking to a few different ones about different things, and he's able to hold and carry multiple conversations at once, and just that sort of processing power is, to me, really astounding, because I do really well like talking one-on-one and maybe a couple people, but when it gets to a lot of people, I don't quite necessarily shut down. I just don't I just don't do well trying to talk to a bunch of people, so I like to talk to just a few people here and there, and that sort of thing, and that's just kind of how I am. And unfortunately, there's times where I can be a bit dominating of a conversation, but but you know, the vices we have, sort of thing, right? Yeah, but I don't even know where I was going with that, other than I've totally forgot where I was going. Where was I going with that thread? I should not be doing this at 1:30, but this is really, like, I to do this, to get this out there, I kind of have to do this at 1:30, so ha ha ha. But where was I going with? Oh, because I was reading Conquest of Gaul with Caesar and stuff. But I guess when he wrote that out, surprisingly, because he's talking about taking over Gaul and beating the Celts and everything, he's very even-handed from what I've heard in the writings. It's not like, oh, those buffoon Celts that couldn't do anything, they're a bunch of fools, blah 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 blah. He's a lot more, and maybe that's trying to, maybe in a way, like, psychologically build up his opponent to be like, man, these guys are really competent, they knew what the hell they were doing, they're really good, they're really strong, they were really orderly and everything. And maybe that was a way to try to make it seem like, man, I'm super awesome and I was able to do this because of that. So yeah, that's certainly a way that it could be taken, but even still, usually that's kind of done in the ancient ways by numerical, by the not necessarily the quality of the enemy, but more so the quantity of the enemy. And so a lot of ancient accounts, you have like battles that are allegedly hundreds of thousands and stuff, and it's probably like a tenth of that sort of thing. But Caesar goes about it a different way with the conquest of Gaul. He more so kind of builds up how they were very competent, as opposed to being hyper numerical. I think Plutarch at one point says, when towards the end of, like, there's an uprising towards the end of the whole ordeal, and Caesar actually comes back from Rome because he thinks he's got everything settled, and then goes back to Rome, and then this happens, and then he heads back with more troops and stuff, and there's a very famous battle, and I think it's the, like, Aurelius, where he's got a town that's on a hill surrounded, and so he builds this defensive fort around it. Like, that's something about the Romans that was really I don't say unique, but they were really good at, was building defensive formations and, like, fortifications, defensive fortifications and stuff, and he builds this around the town to starve it out. And before that can be done, I think messages get out, as well as messages from the outside. Gaul, the Celts, the unified Celts under Vercingetorix. It's a very weird name, very foreign name, but Vercingetorix. He also sends out for assistance and stuff like this, because he had just recently lost a fight, because he had to go out and try to stop him from burning what would eventually become Orleans. But so they're gathering all these Celts and stuff like this, and Caesar catches wind of this, and he builds another ring. So it's like almost like a donut. He's built a protective, defensive fortifications around this town to starve it out, and then another set to protect him from the surrounding Celtic horde as they come in. And Plutarch puts the numbers at, like, almost like 500,000 altogether. Not quite 500,000. I want to say maybe like 400,000 to 500,000, but 4/5 of it, or like 3.5/5 of it on the outside, and then the remaining bits on the inside. It's one of the instances of Caesar being, like, people taking note of, that's insane, but it's also, like, really crazy cool kind of thing for, like, military history buffs. I'm not one. That's not quite my interest in history, which is unfortunate because it's a lot of history, but more some like myths and stuff, like the cultural aspects of the myths, the religious aspects, that sort of thing kind of interests me a little bit more. But this should be some good reading because I've blabbed on it for quite enough, and yeah, yay! So we are going to take a break as I make note of what songs I have used, and after the song we'll get into the topic. So let's do that. Welcome back there. That song was, I want to say it's a Burning Sword. Unfortunately, the titles are not there. It's all file 1, file 2, file 3. But so yeah, that's Burning Sword. And like I said, if you have not given this game a go, it is on the Vita. I think they fixed a problem because I think initially it wasn't available to play on like Vita TV, if you know all three of you have that. But it's a fun game. Do I like it more than the other ones? I did enjoy it because it's a remake of, I shouldn't even say remake, it's like a re-envisioning of 4, which we never got, and it was kind of the swan song for the PC Engine. And there was also a Super Famicom version that was different from the PC Engine version. Like, it's kind of funny because the Super Famicom version, for the most part, compared to the PC Engine one, is very subpar, except for the final boss. The final boss in the Super Famicom version, Mask of the Sun, is leaps and bounds better than the PC Engine version. It's like the final boss for the PC Engine version is so terrible. It's so bad, which is terrible because it's such a good game. But This one's good too. I like because the music's redone. I like both the original. The PC Engine music is more like almost smooth jazz. It's very good. Very good. The opening is just dirty. Just so dirty. So dirty. But no, I think this is still at a time when Falcom's music was just, they were punching on all cylinders, and I honestly can't say that, at least to me, like it was just boom 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 boom. I honestly don't feel that so much with the Sendo Kiseki games. The Trail of Cold Steel, I think, is the English translation. Not so much. There's certainly some good songs in it. There's certainly some really, really good songs, but I don't think they are quite up to the same par as what they were hitting between the release of Zero no Kiseki up until then. Which this, I'm trying to think of when all these other ones came out, like Nayuta. I would put Nayuta in that, which I kind of doubt will get a US release or a North American release or outside Japan release. I think it was translated, so that's a really fun game. But and music's fantastic too. But Nayuta, Celceta might be the last one of the batch before it kind of starts petering out a bit. Like both. Because I've listened, I was recently listening to Sen's music, and both Sen and Sen 2's just not doing it for me. I've actually been listening more to the soundtrack of Cage Song of the Ocean, which is Legend of Heroes 5, which is the game right before Trails and all of its chaos. And that music's really good, and you can see the evolution, or hear the evolution from it to Trails in the Sky, and it's really cool. Haven't finished it. Haven't played it all the way through. I think I played through the prologue, chapter 1 sort of thing, but I do need to get back to it. So yes, the topic for today is devaluing hype, because I guess I just want to be a contrarian. For lack of a better way to phrase this. Part of it's because E3 is coming. I don't really pay attention to it, and it took the conversation that I was having with Johnny Millennium a little bit earlier in the day to remind me of that. I mean, it's not that it was like completely unaware of it. It's more so I just don't have much really going on to, like, the only thing I could say, hey, I'm really interested in. Oops, sorry about that. hitting the mic. Love me. Why won't you love me, people? But the game that I'm looking forward to, hopefully hearing about having a North American release, would be Dragon Quest Heroes 2, because I got the first one from my brother, and he absolutely loved playing through it. So that's really about it. Just a localization of that, and I mean, maybe the Builders one too, because the Builder one, he likes Minecraft a lot, so that would kind of marry the two. But not really my cup of tea. Like, I'm having even a hard time getting any sort of interest in wanting to play the newest East game. For some reason, I don't know why. It's just like, well, I have my Kirby hat. Everything is all right. But yeah, I'm having a hard time even having any interest in that, which is maybe kind of why I gravitated toward this music, because it's, I think, really the big thing with me is music is and whatnot. So anywho, devaluing hype. This is, I can remember a time when I was doughy-eyed and not doughy-bodied that I would sit at the computer, the family computer, and watch a trailer over and over and over and over for a game, and listen to the music, the sample music that was on the website over and over and over. And this is only for, like, I didn't really do this for any other game, like, at all. Like, I can think of times before this when I would see adverts for it in newspapers, like the game is for sale, like not like for sale cheap, but just it's out for sale now, and then I would see that and be like, oh, that'd be cool, and that'd be it. But this game, and it all stems from going into like an Office Max or a fucking Staples or something, and just seeing it randomly, and I think I saw it for like $10, and I was like, oh, and it was in the PS2 section. It was you just had a weird name to it, because I'd never heard of the series or anything like that before, and it was got a blue-haired chick on the cover of it, and that was actually, no, it didn't. No, that's actually what would have not had me be interested in it. It did not have that on there. The thing was apologies there, I had to pause it. And I remember what I was saying, so if I repeat something, I apologize. But no, there was no blue-haired chick on it or anything. It was very minimalistic, which was kind of what was appealing to me, because I was like, why is this so minimalistic? And that was Xenosaga Episode 1. It also had German on it. Like Derwick, I can't, basically the will to power. It's Nietzsche, one of his books, the title of that, and it had German on it. I didn't know German, but I was like, well, this is nifty. This is different. This is a difference. Not a good way to be like, oh yeah, it's different. It's totally just the greatest thing ever. But it was just so foreign to me. I was like, huh, that's kind of what I like when I do buy new games, which is not really ever now, but that's something I did like. Was I don't pay it, and that's part of why I don't pay attention to like game news and stuff like that, or announcements, is because trying, like, just to kind of come upon something without any sort of bias one way or another with it from previous knowledge of it or something like that. Whatever. Something stupid like that. But it was Xenosaga Episode 1, and got it, played through it and loved it and enjoyed it. It was great. For some reason I had really hard trouble with the final boss, but it was also because I never used I think they were called Augs. Never used them. Just kind of brute forced it with the main characters. And the music was great and everything, and so when I beat that, like a year later, or maybe shortly after I'd gotten that, there was the announcement of Xenosaga Episode 2, and boy howdy was I really, really excited for that. With what you see Margulis fighting Jin, and the trailer and the song for it and everything, it was just like, oh my goodness. And I didn't get a hold of it for like 4 years. I didn't play this game for like 4 years, and I finally got around to it, and they had changed the art style of it, which you could see it in the trailer. It never bothered me, but it did bother a lot of people, and unfortunately, because they were trying to garner more Western audience appeal, in doing that switch, it completely chopped the legs from under them, because the Japanese audience didn't really did not like the change at all, and that took away sales, and that was also the starting to push towards first-person shooters and stuff. And so unfortunately the series, instead of going for 6 episodes, where after the 3rd episode it would have jumped like millennia or hundreds of years into the future, it ended on the 3rd one. Damn it, timing is a motherfucker. But so for me, I was watching this and I was hyping this thing up beyond anything, and I know damn well, had I played it after like sitting there with the trailer and everything like that, I probably would have came away very disappointed with it, like a lot of people seem to be. The battle mechanics was wonky, the music was not done by Mitsuda, so some people didn't really care for it. I thought it was okay. I didn't mind it. It's there's certain songs that are really, really good, but compared between 1 and 3, because Yuka Kajiura, she does 3's music and she does a phenomenal job. She does some music in 2 too, and she does a good job with that. But 3, she just slams it out of the park. But I like, the hype is the most grossly overappreciated asset that I can think of when it comes to anything. Like, hype is such a ridiculous concept, because it is basically trying to build yourself up for something that is yet to come. You are basically sacrificing the future for potential enjoyment, or you're sacrificing the present for potential enjoyment for the future. I don't get it. I really, and this is why I don't really watch news things, like the thing with East 8. That's probably, like, I see some things here and there, partially because I'm also talking with, I'll talk with Greg, and I would like to not just be an idiot when I talk to him sometimes, because I know, and maybe I know he doesn't, he's kind enough to not be like, man, Taylor, you're an idiot. But I do feel bad that, like, if I don't do some quote unquote research on it with like just game announcements and stuff, he ends up having to explain a lot to me, and maybe it's good for him too, because it allows him to kind of keep it fresh in his mind. But then it turns into a lecture hour. Well, no, I shouldn't say lecture hour, but it turns into a lecture, and maybe he enjoys that aspect of that parts of conversation and stuff with me. But I do feel like I'm a bit of an idiot when with that sort of thing. But I guess with hyping and everything, I don't know. I can understand keeping tabs on something, because you're like, well, I have some interest in this, but because how life works out, maybe I should, I'll keep tabs on it so that I won't completely forget about it, and then maybe it won't kind of come back until much later and completely like, oh, I don't have an interest in blah 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 blah. But like, that's kind of what happened with me with episode 2, is that I didn't keep tabs on it. Like, I just completely, I think it got delayed or something like that, and and then went to college and just kind of totally forgot about it. But it wasn't until like episode 3 really kind of reeled me back in. But like, just it's a concept that I really don't quite understand. I really don't. I don't understand why it's done. Like, I don't understand the pomp and circumstance of, it could be potentially fun. I mean, lots of things can be potentially fun, but it's actually getting to that point that's kind of determines it there. Like, I seen the whole thing with, like, take for example, what would be a good thing for hype, and this can also be like, did I get you? Shit, did not get them. Stupid mosquito. But take for example something like what would be a good example of something for hype? Like Mass Effect. Like, people were really, 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 really building themselves up for the 3rd episode of that, for part 3 there. And what ends up happening is that when you build lofty expectations, and those not lofty expectations are not met, things quickly turn into partially petulant pissing and moaning. Not all the time, of course, but I mean, there are certain times where people gripe about certain aspects of something where it doesn't fit what they wanted out of something, but it's like, this is the expectations and reality never crossed. I mean, it's kind of the same thing that I know I've mentioned before, is that everybody has ideas, and it's turning those ideas into a reality that is the hardest thing to do. And that sort of that step gets completely thrown out the window when it comes to creation, particularly with games. Case in point, I know mentioned before, but Mr. Silver Mongoose, he really has a bone to pick with Final Fantasy, the original Final Fantasy. That game, contextually, has a lot of bugs. Problem is that the bugs come from the fact that you had like one programmer who had been programming like 6 other games within like a year's time leading up to it, working on it and busting his butt. Not only that, he was also like Iranian, or like either straight up Iranian or like an Iranian American. he kind of gets forgotten about, and I forget him now because I can't even remember his name. It's like Nassim. I want to say, maybe I'm wrong, but I think that's right. That's the thing. His name goes by Nassim, but or Nassim, but it's like the people hype up the series and stuff, and so when he gets into it and he sees all these bugs, he's like, what the hell? He's like, why is this good when you can see all these flaws in it? And that's kind of something that happens with hype kind of, when somebody's hyping a game to somebody else, and we kind of talked about this before, where people try to push things onto other people, and it's a bit greedy to just say, well, you like it because I like it, sort of thing. And then same thing with Earthbound is probably, for me, a sticking point where a lot of other people knew that I liked Final Fantasy, so immediately thought, well, I liked Earthbound, so you'll probably like this too, because A, it's an RPG, B, I liked it. And so they try to push it, not necessarily like try to like beat me up because I didn't play it or anything like that, but they pushed it and said how amazing it was, a great game, the greatest game, and all this sort of stuff. And when you get around to playing it, because we all have our own subjective tastes on what is great, what is bad, and all that sort of stuff, when you get to it, it's not meeting those, or because it just doesn't. It's such a. This is why hype is bad, and I think this is part of the problem that we face with things like E3. And I'm not saying, let's get rid of E3, let's go to dark hours so you don't know about things. I'm not saying that, but I'm saying people ought to curtail their enthusiasm for something that they've not played yet. And even still, they should to express your excitement for something when you've played it and think it's super great or everything. That's one thing, and we've already talked about that. But I'm talking like specifically hype for something. We're talking E3. We're talking particularly last year's E3, where like people went into like spurting crazy because Shenmue 3 got a Kickstarter and people pooped their pants. Final Fantasy VII Remake was announced and people defecated, tore their buttholes asunder with the amount of excitement they got from that, and all the other stuff that went on then. I mean, and that's not to say, well, geez, guys, you bunch of nerds or anything like that. That's not what I'm saying. But they're hyping, like, take Final Fantasy VII, for example. Hype train, choo-choo. Oh, it already just went past. Like, whoop, just whoop. And what ended up happening? They announced that they were doing episodic, and people started flipping their lids about it. And they're just taking what they're told, and they're filling up on just the information of it. They're not even filling up on the actual experience of the game. They're filling up on the information of it, and it completely disregarding anything about it. It could be like, I'm not a Final Fantasy VII fan, really not my cup of tea. I like 8. Like, it's not that I hate 7. 7's okay. It's not like people say they like the music. I cannot remember any of the music from it outside of Those Who Fight Further. I think like that song, and this probably for me is how I judge a lot of games, unfairly or not. Is through how well I remember the music. And so, that song, the One Winged Angel, it's just not a fun game to me. It's just kind of very, I get really bored with it about halfway through disc 1, maybe 2/3 of the way through it, and I just kind of, it becomes just a slogging event after that. I'm like, ugh. 8 I really hated when I first played it, and then I played it again about like 10 years later, and actually ended up enjoying it. I was like, oh, this is a fun game. I don't like it. 9 I do love. 9 is very dear to me, but just the way that the and this is what it kind of goes with, is just that you've got people who love that game. Here, they have the information now that they're remaking it, and then all of a sudden they get the information that now it's going to be chopped up into not itty bitty bits, but it's going to be chopped up into episodes, and just taking the information without any sort of experience of what it is, they cast a because in their head the hype train's already sailed from home. It's already off the. You can't get on the platform. You can't jump on. It's already. There are no brakes on hype train, unless you're Mighty Number 9. But I guess technically there are plenty of brakes on hype trains. But I mean, from the get go, you've already established kind of lofty expectations. And so you've got these people thinking that you're going to get the whole game. It's going to be super, super slick and all this sort of stuff. And then all of a sudden, episodes. Just the sheer fact that they're cutting it up, putting it into smaller, more digestible pieces, people go bananas. Because, well, we had the full game before, and why can't we just have the whole game again, kind of thing. And it's like, well, why don't they do that with other things, like the Walking Dead games? Why are those episodic? Why? I mean, I know. Don't you have to buy one? Somebody please answer this for me. But don't you have to buy an episode, and then you have to wait a couple months or a couple weeks or so before you can buy the second episode, and that sort of thing? And it's kind of cool because it's melding TV in a way with the whole episodic format, and video games in a way, but in the same hand, it's like, why not just give you the whole thing at that point? Why kind of chop it up into episodic bits and go that way? And I can understand the fear that, well, if they do it episodic in installments, and they're a bunch of installments, I to be honest, I could almost see one episode being just Midgar. Maybe that's not going to be the case. Maybe it'll go to the stupid fucking snake thing, but Zalem or something like that. But maybe it's farther than that. Maybe it goes to the cannon, the city with the cannon or something like that. But they're chopping it up, and it's like, well, if it's episodic, they're gonna are they gonna charge us crazy amounts and that sort of thing? And so the hype train is now spun into conspiratorial crazy train, and they're going to be charging super amounts. How are you going to do this and this and this and this and this, and it's just like, hold it, just kind of just reel it in. Like, I guess, I don't know, when it comes to somebody is trying to make for me for entertainment purposes, my brain shuts off for the most part. Not entirely, but and whether for better or for worse, my brain kind of just shuts off. I don't really think too critically about what are they gonna do? Could they be doing this? Could they be doing that? And that sort of thing. I don't care. I really don't. I mean, maybe that's just bad on me, but I mean, I don't care what you do, just show me what you can do, if that makes any sense. Don't tell me what you're going to do, just show me what you're going to do. Actually, we're kind of going through this a little bit ourselves with the working on Sage's Calling. The game I'm working on is people, because we have a blog, and a few people have commented that they'd like to see more stuff from the alpha, instead of more, because there's three of us and we're kind of alternating between who puts up the blog. So one time it's me, one time it's another person, another time it's the other person, and then it's back to me. And for myself, I'm talking about story aspects. I'm talking the setting and like different sections of the setting. So first talking about government, then religion, then economics, and that sort of thing. And unfortunately, people just don't give a rat's ass for that. I mean, that's just I guess it's just the nature of the beast on that sort of thing. They need things to like pictures and images to hype them up in that regard. Words can only do so much, and when it's about things like economics and religion, that really doesn't excite people. So, but I really don't like where hype sits, because what hype does is it puts a meteoric rise on something. You see something, look at what's the Cuphead or something like that. I just seen something about they were showing more animation, so it's like a hand-drawn like platformer or something that's almost like the old-timey Mickey Mouse kind of look to it without the racism, or at least we hope without the racism. And it's just now kind of getting a little bit more video stuff out about it. I think recently, at least recently, I just seen some video about it being passed around on the Facebook. But people were, I think that was one of the games last year that people were blowing their lids over. I completely forgot about that game. The game, I was just kind of like, I know it's a nifty concept, but it's just like, whoop, out of sight, out of mind sort of thing. And it just, outside of that person who showed me that, and it wasn't like a bunch, it was just really the one, I haven't seen anybody else expressing any sort of excitement for this game. And it's such a fleeting thing that people just blow it out of proportion with super hype, gotta go, and then all of a sudden, it's because there's this waiting game to it. It really just, until it's time for them to do the ratcheting up with like commercials and things like that, you don't really hear anything about it. And it's what are you hyping up? That I don't want to like try to take this as what the fuck are you doing kind of thing. I really don't. But you are hyping up something that you are excited for. However, you're excited for something because those are things that are unique to you. I mean, slightly, everybody's going to share certain things that they like to, but in the same hand, you are excited for an experience you hope will be fun. maybe I'm too Spock on this, where it's just like not emotional enough at all for it. Or maybe I'm just too reserved in that kind of fashion. But to me, that's just like a very foreign kind of type of thought for me, or thinking pattern and stuff like that. I guess that'd probably be the best way to put it. It's just just kind of out there. It's very alien to me. So I don't know. Should we devalue hype? To me, it should be the merits of the game. Like, for example, and I know a lot of people don't like this game. Actually, I'm going to pause real quick because I need to really blow my nose. Whew. Okay, a little bit better there. That was kind of crazy. Just kind of like, I can't talk. But case in point, like word of mouth. Even though that's hyping, at least it's hyping it off of what the perceived merits of the game. So, for example, and I know some people really don't like this game. I personally didn't really like this game either. What is this game? Filled with determination. Silence. Oh God, what is that game called? I cannot remember what that game is called. To my Steam, because it is on Steam. I hope this doesn't like bugger up the recording. What is that game called? I'm leaving this in here because this is kind of funny that I've completely went stupid on this. What is this game called? Undertale. There we go. Wow. Take Undertale, for example. People very hyped for that sort of game. I remember the one person talking about how great the music was, and another person that I know just talking about like how crazy the fervor for the game is and stuff. But at least it's hype through the merit of the game. And even though I don't like it because you're trying to like press somebody, it's when somebody presses that on other people to be like, you've got to play it because it's super good sort of thing. Like, if you hype it in a way like because of the merits, this is not to say that's great, but it is a much more appropriate response towards something, because it's then on the merits of the experience you've had with the game, where with just hype alone, you lose me. You really lose me on it. Like, I mean, I can be like, okay, cool, it comes out. That's about it. That's with Dragon Quest Heroes 2. Oh, cool, it comes out. Dragon Quest 11, when they finally announced when that's going to come out. Okay, cool, play it then. Still got other game Dragon Quest games to go. So yeah, so I guess the question to you fine folks out there is, what do you think of hype? Is hype a good thing? Do you think it is? Do you think I'm like off kilter? Do you think that all hype is good? I don't know. Do you think all hype's good? Do you think that some hype's fine and some's not? Where do you stand on the hype train? Are you the conductor going woo woo, Coal Train baby, or are you like with me, like not even on the platform in the station? You're kind of just like in the park, just completely away from it. So we're gonna take a break and then we'll get into the comments. So yeah, let's do that. Alright, welcome back. That there was the Underground Passage, and that song was probably the first one out of the whole soundtrack that really... no, like, I'm trying to remember, I think I might have heard it... at least when I was first playing it, we'll say that. When I was first playing it, that song was the first moment. And then, you know, when you go through a game and then you have the ability to go back and listen to the OST, there's times where you'll listen to songs that happened earlier that you're like, oh man, that was a really good song too. Underground Passage was one when I was first playing through it. That's like, oh man, that's delicious. That's like cheesecake for my ear. But but yeah, so that's that. We're gonna go through these comments, and if I miss any, I do apologize. Point them out to me, and I'll go back through them on the next episode. Not this one, because that'd be kind of hard and kind of weird somehow to like edit. Yeah. So first up here is with Kid Koala, and he. Because this was the last episode, I kind of talked about a little bit of love stories and stuff, and particularly with Final Fantasy X. But he mentions that I'll try to read this verbatim, more so because it'll hopefully give me a chance to think and maybe answer things a little bit differently. But he said, I love the opening song to Final Fantasy X, aka Otherworld. Probably a big reason for that is it was sung by Bill Murr? I don't know how he says his last name there, but who I already was a big fan of because of his band Till I Die, a straight edge / hardcore punk band that toured Japan from 1998 to 2002. Yeah, I have no idea who that is. I did know Till I Die is how you say it. Yeah, because it's like X Till I Die X. I think that's how you say it. And if I'm wrong, please let me know. I am so like I'm like one of those older kind of guy. Like I am more into the hair metal stuff from the 80s a little bit more than 90s music. So I commented to him about it when he first put it up there, and I have to reiterate, I would be lying if I knew who that person was, or if I said I knew who that person was or the band. Not to like take away and say who are they? They're nobody. It's more of just like when it comes to music in the sense of in like the bands and things like that. I know a couple of bands, but not. I'm so poor. It's kind of the same thing that I have with games, where it's like I like games, but I don't try to like go deeper sometimes with like who made the game or the company and things like that. I just kind of care for the game itself. I mean, certainly I will from time to time kind of learn like other bits about the game stuff, like the thing with Final Fantasy, but that's almost like a looking up other stuff and just kind of almost tangentially learning that sort of thing. But yeah, like when it comes to bands and stuff, I'm not like music and songs themselves are really my thing. So yeah. And then he continues with, now for Final Fantasy X, I'm fine with it being a love story, but I'm not the biggest fan of the story. Tidus comes across as a spoiled child to me, mostly due to the fact that it never really shows his dad doing anything that bad to him, and his continuous whining through the whole fucking game about hating his father and his childish ways of dealing with things gets pretty old damn fast. Example, when you arrive at Luca and the announcers are talking about the prior Blitzball tournament, Tidus decides, let me grab the mic real quick and run my big mouth before the tournament even begins. That's true. He does. But I think I understand. Yeah, he is not really, Tidus is not really meant to be. Well, I don't say meant to be, but Tidus is not really a valiant main character, not in the least. However, I would still say that even though they're not a valiant main character in the sense of kind of like your typical maybe like stoic kind of hero or that sort of thing, they have qualities about them that make them at least human. And so instead of like, a lot of times the story arcs for main characters can tend to be that they have all these things already with them, that these maybe altruistic views or very steadfast and just strong to the letter of the law, maybe not the letter of the law, but just strong-willed and that sort of thing. And they go through adversity, but they come out unchanged. Not all the time, of course, but that is a very common sort of thing. At least with Final Fantasy X, he changes. Tidus, I don't want to say matures, but he grows up, and by seeing how differently seeing like maybe the quote unquote more true, or at least a more gentle side of his father. Because yeah, you certainly don't see enough to. It's just kind of, I don't want to say it's just how Japanese people are. I mean, you totally get it like in the States with or elsewhere, where if anything, to me, what Final Fantasy X shows initially with how Jack treated his wife and his son was that he was much more about living his life than taking care of a child. And you see that, you do certainly see that with parents nowadays. A lot of parents here where they're more self-absorbed into doing their own thing, or they decide that it's appropriate to have their children be their friends, which is, to me, that is you are breaking down very important social connections with a child by turning them into your friend instead of having them be your son or daughter, because reasons. I mean, it's you are breaking. It's kind of like the for example, with a teacher-student relation. There, you have the teacher tells students, teaches students, and that sort of thing. Students kind of are supposed to ask questions. They're supposed to ask questions, learn, and that sort of thing. But when you drop down to that level of kind of completely breaking and disregarding not rules, but the stance between the two, to where you are just like, not saying like the gross shit, but like just friends sort of thing, where you turn it into more of a friend sort of thing. It's you take away a dynamic, you alter the dynamic drastically by doing that. Can you be friends with teachers? Certainly, but not when you are supposed to be a student. There are a few professors and teachers that I am friends with, sort of. I mean, I keep a correspondence with that. In the class itself, just no, no, stop it. but I think at least, yeah, he does have this braggadocious attitude towards himself. But even in that scene there, like that, I could be misremembering it, but even in that scene there, I have to make sure this is recording, otherwise I'm going to feel like a fool. But even in that scene there, at the end of it, he kind of he does that, but I think it's almost in a way trying to, almost, for lack of a better word, trying to hype himself up to be interested in doing it, because he feels like he doesn't even really have the energy to do it there, kind of thing. So I totally get that. It's particularly because because you read through Conan the Barbarian and stuff. I imagine you probably prefer a character like Conan to be a main character, whooping lots of butt, compared to Tidus's daddy issues. but I mean, yeah, there's nothing wrong with that. There's nothing wrong with it. I had to say it twice just to make sure, because there's nothing wrong with it. But it's just it's just different. I mean, that's totally fine. Like I like 10, not so much because of him. I don't hate the game because of him. And you go on here. I should kind of go into this, but. You said also I was originally going to go into detail why I didn't like any of the lead characters, but I don't really want to take a piss on a game a lot of people enjoyed. With that being said, I'm going to leave the story alone. And I think I started to mention this, and I think I mentioned it in that episode, but I think I mentioned in the recording I deleted, but I've been sort of replaying through it again, and it is very weak at times in the action that happens during an event, as well as some of the dialogue is kind of, I don't want to say it needs to be verbose or anything like that, but it's a bit lacking. And maybe that's just me getting into bitter old man syndrome. But yeah, it isn't like I liked it for the music and the I liked that it had culture to it. There was a culture to it that you didn't really see with some of the others. You had it in 9. You had the troop. The troop kind of gave it a bit of its own kind of culture, and then trying to think of another good example in 9 that had some really good, like I can never say the name, Daguerrero, the kind of the library place had its own like mystique and things like that. The other kind of world, Terra, I think it was, had its own vibe to it that wasn't like anything else in the game. So yeah, so I totally I get you, but yeah, but let's get to this part here. But the best part of FF10, in my opinion, is the combat system and the sphere grid. The two things are what kept me playing through the game until it was finally over. The combat system is, I do like how you can switch out characters and that sort of thing, and you can see who's going next, and you can alter that by hasting and slowing and all that sort of stuff. The sphere grid is kind of weird to me because it's so incrementally slow that it almost feels like you're not even leveling up at all, and that is kind of I don't want to say it's a negative. It's a bit more of a, it's just kind of wonky, I guess. It's not, it's just different. It's like it doesn't feel like you're progressing at times when you have a fight or two, and then you're able to upgrade health by 200 or attack by 2 or something like that. It's a bit different in that regard. But thank you for the comment, Kid Koala. Let's see here. Alright. Mr. Silver Mongoose on, I do not remember. Let's see what episode this was. On Rambling Weekly 5th, he responded, yes, I do remember that Power On Podcast episode. That was a good one. You were incorrect then and incorrect now, Taylor. 10 is just, winky face. And this is Power On Podcast, one of the, I think it was just the straight up like portable one. I think it had to be, because it was talking like combating 2 different games. Sushi B and I went head to head in talking about Mega Man 9 and 10. and I am in the fandom of 10, and he's in the fandom of 9. And I asked him this, and I don't know if he just kind of missed it, or he's answered it before, and I've forgotten. But it seems to be the division between 9 and 10 is the same as 2 and 3, and that's what the music was inspired by. 9's music was the inspiration for it came from Mega Man 2. 10's came from 3 and 4, I think. But and I love 3 and 4 more than I like 2. So just in the music alone, certainly some of the bosses are really, really silly in 10 with Sheep Man. I mean, just that there alone. But it also has Solar Man, and Solar Man's stage, his music is super awesome. It's also got just, I don't know, I'm not going to derail crazy into that again, but yeah. Then he also, on Rambling Weekly 5th, commented, I think the point you made about being able to disagree with people and still discuss, pick each other's brains, etc. is a good one. That is something that I've really enjoyed about growing up, and it's a shame that most people can't seem to take emotion out of discussions. Some people, like Derek the Completionist here on YouTube, disagree on so many topics, probably more than not. But we get along great because we respect each other and understand that different people are just that, different people. It's very enjoyable to open your mind to other opinions and perspectives, even if in the end you still hold your original opinion steadfast, which is fine. I mean, it's an opinion, so like it's an opinion that doesn't promote or condone, I guess, spite or like malicious behavior. It's if we cannot have a civil conversation about things because you obviously are wrong, dear sir, Silver Mongoose, on Mega Man 9 being the better game, and I'm like, no, Mega Man 10 is. If we can't have a civil conversation because of something like that, there is something wrong with us. Like there is a breakdown. And maybe that's harsh of me to say that there's something wrong, but no, that is a problem. That is a big problem, because in the grand scheme of things, and you could be like, well, in the grand scheme of everything, it doesn't really matter because the void will take us all, in your nihilist view. But it's a game. People can disagree about games. Last time I checked, there's nothing wrong with that. Like, I love Dragon Quest V, and it's not for everybody. Dragon Quest V is not for everybody. I love history. History is not for everybody. I get that. That's fine. That's totally fine. People are much smarter than I am in more things than I can count. That is fine. That there's nothing wrong with that. But we can still be civil human beings to one another and chit-chat and that sort of thing. I will say, emotions are certainly very difficult to take out. Spoiler alert, but there is a decision that happens at the end of an episodic game called Life is Strange. And to boil it down to its two basic things is that you have to choose to either save your friend and let a city be destroyed, or let the city be saved but have your friend die. Now, for some people this is a very difficult choice. For my mother, I actually brought this up to my mother because I thought it was, to me, I think it's such a stupid choice, because to me it's simple. You have to take emotion out of it. You have to do that. And I've actually talked with a good friend of mine, and we both agreed if we were in that situation and if one of us had to go, we would kill the other. It's like there's your, like, to me, I think it's like that question there, how somebody answers that demonstrates how greedy somebody is. And that's not to say that somebody's an asshole because of that, because you're dealing with emotions at that point. There is a substantial weight behind it. So it's not to say that you're a horrible person for it, but you are greedy. You are choosing your relationship with this person, whether it's a friendship, a familial, like a family sort of thing. It's your child, it's a parent, it's a cousin, that sort of thing. You are choosing your relationship over thousands of other relationships because you cherish this person more than everybody else, and also more than anybody else. you see the value of everybody else's happiness, despair, sadness, anger, and everything to not be worth the happiness that and joy and misery and everything else that comes with friendships and whatnot that you have with this person. That to me is very greedy, and I will not think less of somebody. My mother disagrees entirely with me, because she, like, if for example if it was a kid, she would choose to save a kid over everything else. You have that dilemma play out in other games. Is the right choice? No, I do not think it's the right choice. Am I the arbiter of everything that's right? No. So, there you go. But I'm also a very cold, logical kind of person. Not like Super Spock or anything like that. Not even Spock. Not even like subpar Spock. But it's just a very logical way to go about it. But yeah, so. But am I not going to talk to my mother because of that sort of thing? Well, you don't agree with me, so I'm never going to talk to you again. No, that's ridiculous. And it's not even just because she's my mother, but this is another human being who has their own opinions and their own experiences and stuff. I'm not going to just be like, well, to hell with you. That's ridiculous. That's silly. It's silly. So yeah, Silver Mongoose also responded to. I want to say this is from Rambling Weekly 6th. And he mentions, yes, the book for Princess Bride is great as well. Personally, I think censorship has a place in some instances, for example, on the cover of a book, movie, game, etc., because that is something that can be visible and is not fair for me or anyone else to decide what level of sexuality or violence or whatever people are subjected to. But the content of the media and art itself should be allowed to be whatever. That's what rating systems, warnings, and descriptions are for. Though a person may not agree on what the proper rating is for teen, 18 plus, etc., person to absorb for a teen, 8 or 18-year-old, etc., to absorb, most people understand the system, what sort of things might be in, say, a mature game versus a PG game. Especially since it usually says beneath violence, some nudity, etc. Of course, this is from a North American perspective in our rating systems. Okay, we'll stop right there. Like the content of artwork should not be censored. Even if it is horrifically gross, it shouldn't be censored. More so because freedom of speech should basically for the premise of I must allow the freedom of speech of the people I like least, no matter, because without that it's hypocritical to then be like, well, they have to be quiet about this, but I expect freedom of speech for everything. No, because somebody else is going to come along and say you must be silenced in XYZ manner for these things. It's an all or nothing game, and I can understand maybe just having like the title or something without like showing images or anything like that to do that. Trailers, you can cut them in certain ways to kind of not to accidentally show people it's not intended for. But in the same hand, I think this is also a problem with the maturity of the psyche of the average person. is that particularly in like North America, in the U.S., where sex is this horrible, dirty thing, but violence is just like, well, it's violence, yay, violence, but yeah, it like I don't know. It's not like you should just show like really graphic things to kids, just some sort of like crazy psychological experiment. But if they come across something that they see, like I would you kind of have to have a limit on it, because there's something. Excuse me. There's something about with boys. Their boys' sexuality, in particular, boys' sexuality, that's it's impressionable from a very young age. So like from 5 to 6 to about 10, 11 or so. What kind of sexually excites them, or what gets them as during that age, or what kind of, I guess, excites them would be the best way, during that age, follows them into adulthood. Doesn't happen with girls, but it does with boys. And so with that sort of thing, yeah, you gotta be kind of careful with what you're putting out there for young children to see, because if you put out some really, really like graphic stuff, that could really, really, really alter somebody, and so like throwing that out there, just you have to have a bit of a deft touch, because you can talk to somebody who is 22. Like, I can talk to somebody who's 22 who I feel is much less mature than somebody I know who's 14, aka my sister. But that's just, that's eye of the beholder sort of thing. So, woo. Then he asks me what my thoughts on language censorship are, particularly in music on radio, and he's like, oh yeah, ukulele and A Hat in Time, I forgot those existed, off to sleep for now. And then we kind of have a bit of a dialogue about this, and and I mentioned that I don't agree with the radio censorship, and I point to George Carlin's Supreme Court ordeal with free speech. On that's my thoughts on that. As for myself with swearing and whatnot, yes, I could stand to do a better job. I could stand to do a much better job, but I guess I'm just not that good. But I could stand to do a better job of how I phrase things from time to time, but swearing's fun. And then I make a mention of I could stand to do a better job at not swearing, and generally do when I'm in discussions with somebody, which is true. Usually I unless I'm ranting about something, I'm fairly good about not just F-bomb, kind of thing. But someone's words should not be stifled, but countered with better set of words, much like ideas. And then he mentions you are assuming that people will listen and want to use better words. And he doesn't see radio rap becoming any more sophisticated anytime soon. Winky face. I think, and I think he felt that I went a little off the rails on this, but with the advent of the internet and everything with it, it is allowed for the ability to people to congregate into like-minded circles, but for better and for worse. And in this instance, when it comes to the whole countering with better words and or ideas, there are certainly people who actively search those things out. I am one of those people. I don't know how I came across the guy's channel, but Razor Fist, Rageaholic, I love watching his stuff. Yeah, he rants and he's vulgar and crass at times and stuff, but the language that he uses is fantastic. It is enjoyable to me. I love that. I love that he uses words. At times I'm like, whoa, what was that? And then I'll look it up, because that helps me grow. And I mentioned that, but later in my comment to him is that, what Ludwig Wittgenstein said, the limits of my language means the limits of my world. And that's to me, when you, if people, and it's not that I assume people use better words or listen, but if people do not choose to use better words, they're going to choose worse words, and they're going to progressively become more and more and more ignorant about it, or more generic in their language. Look at pop music now. Pop music is written at a 2nd to 3rd grade level, and it's got a bunch of hooks and everybody gets catchy and all that sort of stuff, but it's written at a 2nd to 3rd grade level, and that is frightening to me, because you can look at, for example, the Russian language, and there's also an African language that I can't remember how it's differentiated, but in the Russian language there's a bunch of different words for shades of pink, and because of that they are able to differentiate between those different shades. However, we have words for them, but we don't use them, we don't express them, and because we don't express them, we become blind to it, we become very ignorant, and everything starts to, all those different shades turn to one shade. And that's kind of where I was going with that, is that things, when you start to lighten the load, the lexicon load in a culture of people, things become more basic. And when things become more basic, they fall under a greater umbrella. However, just because they fall under a greater umbrella doesn't mean it's being expressed properly. And I brought this up on Facebook with not a couple people, but I just brought it up as an open question because I was curious, is what people, a couple people who responded to me said that they have trouble with speaking with their significant other because of the language barrier. And one was told when they were frustrated or just struggling with something, don't be angry. And it's like, that doesn't help, because I'm not angry. It's a whole other thing. And that's where I was going with that. So I hope that makes better sense when you do listen to this in about 6 months. Kidding. You'll probably listen to it about, at the rate you're going, maybe 2 months. And it'll be like, what is he talking about? And then the man, you commented so much here. Okay. Silver Mongoose, also in Rambling Weekly 6, responded, to me a superhero is just a superhero. A hero is someone like a firefighter that pulls a child out of a burning building. Batman saves so many people that he is super in my mind. He doesn't have laser eyes or anything like that, but he has skills and he has stuff. And I don't know much about comic books, but doesn't that apply to other superheroes as well, like Green Lantern? I don't know, because I'm with you on that, but yeah, I'm kind of one of the more generic people with it, that I go with the base definition, like the dictionary definition of, a hero is somebody who displays courageous, brave, or noble acts. So to me, a superhero would have to go beyond what is possible for a human. And that's kind of something I don't like, because that's not something that I can experience. I mean, I can imagine it. You can demonstrate it to me, but it's kind of like, okay, all right, okay, yeah, okay, kind of thing. So, but that's that, yeah. So, all right. And then he left two. I don't want to say these on Rambling Weekly 7, but he left two different comments here. Mr. Silver Mongoose did, and he said, for tension, because it was kind of talking about how horror, like that episode I was talking about tension, like horror movies don't do it for me because they don't do well with building tension. And for him, he recommended The Circle and Gravity from this year, or at least the past year. I don't know, did it come out this year? I thought it came out a while ago, but I've never heard of The Circle, but I have heard of Gravity, so I'll look into those. Having a friend there to create a different experience probably helped with the memory compartmentalization. Yeah. And that was in response to having like an old childhood memory of a game and then you play it sometime later. Does that kind of change the memory? Does the new one kind of wash out the old one? Having a friend there, maybe it kind of it doesn't quite change it, but it puts it put it in its own little box sort of thing. So okay, thanks for those comments, and just thanks everybody for all the comments so far and everything, as I have long overdue little blabbed about the comments there. So alright, we're gonna take a final break here and then wrap it up here with the quote section. So take a listen to the song and then come back, punch this out. Punch. Alright, that song there was Gust of Wind. It's a good song to kind of pick me up and push me through the rest of this, because it is getting late. But that and also my nose. I don't know, like, the moment I stop talking, my nose stops becoming stuffy, which is kind of weird. I don't know, allergies, gotta love them, right? Yeah! But, yeah. So that song was Gust of Wind, and this last bit here is the quote section. Yay, quote. The quote here is going to be from Julius Caesar, because read the book and everything like that, and I think it's a good one. So write it down, folks. And that quote is, "What we wish, we readily believe, and what we ourselves think, we imagine others think also." And yeah, I think this is something that we constantly have to remind ourselves to overcome, is this constant, almost incessant idea that what we're thinking, other people are thinking the same thing, and that we just kind of, it's almost kind of weird because it's something that infants do, like how our lizard brains, our monkey brains, our people brains, how dumb is it that we cannot go beyond that we constantly struggle with just this basic idea that other people do not think the same thing we do. It's just infants do that. Infants project. There's a really interesting PDF file that I'm starting to read about how we can teach sign language to gorillas and whatnot, but they never ask us questions. They always answer things. And so the PDF's about who asked the first question, and there's something with the development of a brain that it's up until like a year and a half or so, 2 years, where the the infant just kind of transposes all of its inner thoughts, feelings, and stuff onto other people it sees. So it just thinks that it's just another it. It doesn't have the concept of another. And even though we have the concept of another, we don't seem to project that beyond the presence. We always kind of fall into this. We always kind of fall into groupthink, and we all struggle with it. I struggle with it. Everybody struggles with it. If you don't struggle with it, okay, I shouldn't even say struggle, but we all do it. We do it. If you say you don't, then you are, I guess, a better man or woman than anybody else, because everybody does it, and we have to be constantly reminded of it. And usually, it comes at a cost of something. So either it's just like a moment or something like that, and it's just it's weird that as infants we get over that hump. Gorillas don't get over that hump, which is why they don't ask questions. Evidently, I think maybe from that PDF file, but we get over that hump. But then we kind of regress when it comes to the inner workings of somebody else, and maybe it's just because it is difficult. It's hard not to just brush stroke things. This is why you get people who will brushstroke. Well, you're from there, or you're this type of person, so that you must be like this. And in certain instances, it's easier that makes it easier for people to hate groups of people, and that sort of thing. But it's a sign that you have trouble not projecting onto somebody else. And it's not to say just only if you're hateful or something, but we all go through it. We have those. There are times where I am talking to somebody else who loves history, and for example, talking about Vercingetorix with how he united all of the Celts to be the first and last king of the Celts, and he in talking about that, and the person I was talking to just didn't understand where just basically I said this to him, and it was just talking about this whole thing, and after like 2.5 minutes, hopefully less, but after a little bit of time of just going through and talking about this, he's kind of like, you should teach," which I thought was kind of funny. But and it's just like, yeah, but it's like that's an example of me. Like I do that with people when I think somebody else is smart in the same way that I'm smart. The person I was talking to is a lot smarter than I am when it comes to musical talent. The guy can play a bunch of instruments, and I can't. I can play a couple things with ball and he's couple on when I'm being taught. But yeah, he can play guitar, play piano, that sort of thing, and I can't do that. And if he was to do that same thing, but he doesn't because he's better than I am. But I imagine that he does the same sort of thing at times of kind of going off the rails with that sort of thing, because yeah, I hope, but it's something I certainly need to work at, and I imagine it's something, and maybe that's just me just projecting again, but I like the quote, and also we do really want to believe things so quickly when it's something we wish to be true. But anywho, that I'll leave things at that, because once again my nose is starting to get clogged again. Weird. But that's that. Thanks for listening. The song I'm going to play out to is Black Wings, and they're all from the Celceta soundtrack. And this song here, like when I first heard this, I was like, this is some badassery. This song is freaking sweet, and yeah. So I hope you enjoy it, because I really enjoy it. I enjoy it a lot, and it's one of those songs that it's just because passage time and everything, completely forgot about the song, and I'm going to jam to the song with you. So, thanks for listening, guys. Have a good one. And gals. Hi. Yeah, thanks for listening, guys, gals, everybody, people. Thanks for listening, people. Have a good one. I'll catch you next week. I've got things I'll make. There will be a way, darn it. So, yeah. Take it easy.